So now we're going to go over the controls on your AD dryer. The controls are the same on all three models. When you receive your dryer, the screen's going to look like this when you first power it on. You'll notice that smart mode is enabled. Your temperature, your actual temperature is here, ready to start. That's your start stop. CFM of the dryer. I recommend when you initially start your dryer, you turn the CFM to the max. And you'll also see your drying temperature, your dew point, and drying time. Drying time isn't really effective in manual mode. We'll discuss advanced mode later. Next, you'll set your drying temperature, and you can set it to whatever you want between the min and max limits. So we'll just set it to 200, and then you'd be able to start your dryer. To access any of the settings, you touch the little gear wheel in the corner. The first thing you'll see is actual data. This is going to show you all your temperatures for every thermocouple. It also shows you your actual dew point, and it shows you your power usage. And if you scroll up, you'll also see production time, number of times somebody just turned the power off instead of using the stop, which is not good for your deskant wheel or heaters. And it'll also show you blower speeds. After actual data, you'll see we have smart mode, MPM set, and SLS mode. Smart mode allows the dryer to slow down the blower speed as your exit temperature approaches your process set point. So if you touch smart mode here, you'll see it gives you a delta T between the two thermocouples, and you can adjust that setting to what works best for your material. So right now I have it set to 25, so you're drying at 200 degrees. When the exit air temperature approaches 200, so it'll get to 175, then we'll slow the process blower down to save energy and to help with material degradation. The next mode is MPM set. MPM is to prevent over drying, and there's two methods with MPM. If you have an ADC, you can use the hopper mode, which I'll show you. So it says hopper loader. It'll monitor how many loads you're making, and if the loads slow down, it'll slow down the blower to maintain the dryer temperature. If you don't have an ADC with conveying and you want to use the MPM feature, you'll have to turn off smart mode. And then if you go back to MPM set, go from hopper loader to return air temperature, and then you'll see you have your delta T, you have a time delay, and then you have your process temperature setback. So what'll happen is when you get to 175 degrees, it's gonna drop your process temperature by whatever you set it to, currently 25 degrees here. And then it gives it a delay of 30 minutes, so it's not cycling on and off constantly. This feature is good if you're drying nylon or any other type of material that may degrade as you dry it. You know, with nylon, it'll discolor if it's over dried. If your dryer's matched to your process and you're not over drying, then you really don't need to use it. So we'll turn that back off. We'll turn smart back on. And then the next mode is SLS mode set. So SLS is if you have a slide gate below your drying hopper. You can set in your resonance time, and if you're using the ADC, you can set charges per hour, so that's how many times you convey per hour. And what it'll do is, once you start the dryer, it will hold the material in the hopper for at least the amount of time you have set for resonance, so 120 minutes, before it allows material to be conveyed to your machine. The next button here is Halo. We have Halo system available that monitors the throughput of the material entering the drying hopper. So it'll give you pounds per hour reference going into your drying hopper. Feeding kit is your conveying. And then you can export data from the dryer. You'd have to have a memory card installed. And you can also look at the data log for alarms and different information. So if you go back to settings, you'll notice that there's another button here, and that's for your advanced setting mode. This is where you'll change from English to whatever language you want to select. So if we touch here, you can see it's got several different languages. You can select between imperial or metric. Set your time and date. Under time and date, you also have activities, which is essentially a 7-day timer. If you turn on activities, you can set start and stop times for every day of the week. So if you wanted to start your dryer at 8 in the morning and stop it at 5 at night, you can add an activity, select your date, select the time you want the activity to take place, and you can select whether it's either a start or stop, and then save your activity. You can also do a weekly repeat, so it does it every week. So we'll turn activities. So if you have activities on and you go back to your main screen, you'll see this button. And if you hit that, it'll enable the activities. So we'll go back to settings. We will go back to the activities, disable, and then back up to settings. The next button is manual. So right now the dryer is set in manual mode, which means you set your CFM and your process temperature from the main screen. If you go to advanced, you'll select your material you're using, and it will it'll run the dryer based on the material. So if we go back to the main screen, you'll see now instead of your CFM and temperature set point, you have a material and you have pounds per hour throughput. You also have your drying time. So if you touch here, instead of selecting your temperature, you'll select the material you want to use. So just to give you a different example, let's touch here, click the play button, go back, and you'll see it changed to LCP, your process temperature changed, and your throughput changed. So if we go back to settings, the next thing you'll see under advanced is material data. This is your database that holds all your different materials. It comes with a standard database of several different materials, and then you can add your own materials. So once you do custom materials, it'll go in the custom database. So if you wanted to add a new material, you touch here and you can input all the parameters for that material. Below the material data, we have your high temperature alarm set point. It's a delta. So if your temperature is set to 200 degrees, whatever you set that alarm at, it will be, so like right now it's set to 36. If it goes to 236, you get a high process alarm. The next one is your low process alarm. So if it's below 54 degrees of your set point, you'll get an alarm. You also have a process rising time. So you can put a time in there. If you don't see the process temperature rise in that amount of time, you'll get an alarm. Material loading. It just gives you a max and minimum loading for this dryer model. And dew point warning, that's when you'll get your alarm for a bad dew point. You can have an alarm, you can change your alarm whether you want to turn the alarm off, alarm only, or alarm and warn. So we'll set it to alarm and warn. And then next feature is your periodic rotor cleaning. That's something you'll have to decide, but I would enable it. That will clean your rotor and maintain it so you don't have to replace your deskant wheel as often. So we'll go ahead and enable that. And then it'll periodically clean the deskant wheel, get any plastic dust or anything that got in there. It'll superheat the wheel to clean it off. Next, you have a timer for filter cleaning. That'll give you a reminder periodically to clean your filters. You can set that time. And then below that is your hopper capacity. So however many cubic feet your hopper is, you just have to make sure that it matches the setting to the actual size. Energy just allows you to reset your energy data that you see on the actual data screen. The next function is backlight. That allows you to adjust the brightness and dimness of the screen. And then you have operator and maintainer passwords. So you can set passwords for your operator level or your maintenance level. Below that you have Modbus slave address. That's used if you're using our communications package or if you have more than one dryer for your ADP style dryer. So you can have one hopper with two dryers, one master and one slave, to get the proper amount of drying for a larger hopper. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start the dryer. One thing I will let you see is when you get an alarm on this dryer, not only do you get your alarm horn or light if you have one as an option, the screen will light up an alarm. So I think once we start this, we'll see it goes into warming up, your light turns green, and then once it's warmed up, the dryer will start running. So once the dryer starts, you'll see we have a dew point, low dew point warning. And you can see that the whole screen flashes, so it's very visible throughout the plant. So we'll go ahead and silence that. That dew point alarm will go away shortly after you start running once the dew point drops. So the next thing we'll discuss, you can see the drying temperature's rising, the blower's running. The next thing we want to do is just go to shutdown. So now we're running, we click shutdown, verify that you want to shut down, and it goes into cooling down. You do not want to just kill this dryer from the disconnect. You want to let it go through the cool down cycle. This protects your rotor and your heaters. And with that, that concludes today's training session.